Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. XRP just about hit another new all-time high today, a mere hours ago. It reached as high as $3.64 according to Live Coin Watch. The all-time high from several days ago, $3.65, so just about there. As I record this video, though, XRP is down to $3.55. It's not solely XRP that had a little bit of a pullback this afternoon, but don't be concerned about this. We are not going to be hanging out in this range much longer. What you're going to see, I'm going to share with you some of the latest perspective from a number of different XRP chart analysts, and what you'll see is continued confidence that XRP is about to blast out of here. Finally just go straight up for the first time above $4, in fact. And any pullbacks that you see along the way, and there will be some, they're expected to be shallow and short-lived. We are reaching the final leg of this cycle, so says many chart analysts, in fact. And look, there are reputable analysts that have been arguing that this bull cycle might extend into late 2025. Some even think there's a chance it extends into 2026. But most of what I see from the analysts that I follow is that, yeah, we're pretty much reaching the end here. So we'll see who's right about that. I'm not literally making a bet since I'm not in that type of game myself. But I gotta say, if I just had to guess, it does look like we're approaching, based on historic precedents and various signals firing off, it does look to me very similar to how things looked as we were about to reach that final parabolic push. So we haven't had the parabolic push. It's exciting. Yes, prices have come across the board, including XRP. We're not in that final parabolic part where the most euphoric price action happens, but we're right there. Like, we're in the beginning phase of that effectively. That's what tons of analysts are arguing. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I'm not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 5:21 p.m. Central Time, Monday, July 21st, 2025. Bitcoin is at $117,148. Here's the 24-hour chart, so you can see it pulled back, 24-hour high of 119,500 roughly. So that's a 24-hour chart for Bitcoin. Here's the 24-hour chart for XRP. So it had been climbing, and then in recent hours, as Bitcoin came down, so did XRP, and that's pretty similar to what happened with other top coins across the board. So nothing wacky here, but again, this stuff is going to be short-lived. I wanted to note that the S&P 500 closed at 6,305. It did hit a new all-time high today. In fact, it got as high as roughly, 6,335. And the reason that I mention this is it's more confluence. Everything is firing off the way you would want and expect it to as you reach the end of a bull cycle. That is what's happening here. Then historically, all of these things happen at once. All of these things I've been talking about in recent days, recent weeks, recent months, all of it's happening right now. And so the reason you want to see this, by the way, just to be clear, in case you haven't heard me go on spiels about this, and I'll be short here, it's because as a risk-on appetite increases, what you find historically is that people are willing to put more money into the stock market. Breadth opens up, so it's not just the large caps. With an increased risk-on appetite, you'll see investments further out the risk curve into smaller cap stocks, even like in the Russell 2000, that index. And at the same time, historically, that happens, you see an increased appetite for risk in crypto. Because look, if you've got more liquidity out there, more money needs to be placed somewhere by people, businesses, institutions. And so you've got to put it somewhere. You're probably going to end up with an increased appetite for risk. So you go further out the risk curve in the stock market. And those same humans, they're also buying crypto. And so, bam, there you go. And then you end up with an alt season. That is what's happening now. As, of course, global liquidity has been rising throughout this year, in fact. It's fantastic to see. We are not done here, folks. We're absolutely not done here. But when we do get closer to the top, there will be signals. There's going to be all sorts of alarm bells going off, and I will be talking about that. We're not seeing that. We are seeing that things are unfolding that will lead us to that, and so I'm highlighting that just to kind of get you ready here. But eventually we're going to get there, and you don't want to be left holding the bag, specifically your bag, when this thing starts going the other direction, because I fully expect that a bubble's going to inflate, but then pop, and then drop to the downside. So just be careful with this stuff. But you can tell historically, there are signals. You can tell when it's getting increasingly riskier to hold rather than sell. And I will tell you about that as we get there. Here's a post from chart analyst Ali Martinez. It says capital inflows into the crypto market have doubled in July, hitting $74.5 billion. You don't say. No way. That's increasing as global liquidity has increased, and as people like Raoul Pal, the former Goldman Sachs executive who founded Real Vision and Global Macro Investors, he and his partner Julian Biddle highlighted, hey, you should expect to see Bitcoin hit new all-time highs July, and if it continues to follow what's happening with global M2, and so all this money is flowing in at the same time. No way! Oh, I can't believe it! Yeah, exactly. Come on. You'll love to see it though, right? Here's a post from chart analyst Mustache. This is the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's known as Total 3. And here he says Total 3 has bounced off of a 2-year trend line and has almost simultaneously broken an 8-month downtrend. The start of a wild ride has begun. Dips are for buying. So look, at the same time that I just showed you, capital inflows doubling in July, here you see Total 3. Look at this. Look at that, rocketing up in July. It's not a surprise. None of this should be a surprise if you're paying attention. I've been talking about this for a long time leading up to this. This is the fun part, folks. Welcome to it. So don't be bummed out when there's little tiny pullbacks along the way. We are going to see things get redonkulous before this is over. Here's a post from chart analyst Rect Capital. This is a Ethereum USD chart. And he said it just like that. Ethereum has revisited the top of the macro range, which is red. That's where I move my mouse up here for those of you looking. Rallying over 120% since the reversal from the light blue historical demand zone. And so there you go. Months ago, as Ether was down to about $1,400, I told you that it wouldn't stay there. It would rebound. It was oversold in this area. It was very obvious the fundamentals for XRP hadn't changed. They gotten worse. So whether you do or don't like the fundamentals of ETH, doesn't matter. What I'm telling you is the market had been just fine with those fundamentals for years and years and years. And so with them not getting worse and the price going lower, what does that tell you? It tells you that people are making selling decisions, cratering the price down to $1,400, not based on anything that would result in it endlessly trending towards zero. It's the same thing that happened with XRP in 2024. It got ridiculously undervalued, and those that recognized it took up the opportunity to purchase more. And now they're sitting pretty. Went from about $1,400 to $3,800 the other day. And it ain't done. And the reason I highlight this is because historically this kicks off alt season. More confluence. We are not done. And then XRP is gonna, I'm telling you, it is going to rival ETH. If history is to rhyme with itself, which I believe it typically does, you're gonna see XRP getting up there. And so with ETH being at that $3,800, $3,900 range, if XRP matches that market cap, XRP would have almost $8 per XRP. Even just there. That's why I keep saying $8 XRP, not a big ask in my humble opinion. I'm not making a price prediction. I admit I don't know where XRP is going to go, but I will not be surprised to see it get up in that range and into double digits, because I just don't think it's that hard for that to happen in the world of crypto, especially when XRP has been so artificially suppressed. There's so much attention on it. Obviously, the fundamentals have never been stronger. It's what you want to see going into the final phase of a parabolic bull season. Here's a post from this morning from Credible Crypto. Bitcoin USD chart here says, nice, exactly what I wanted to see here thus far. Let's see how things look tomorrow as more price action develops. And so he had been noting here, you could see, at least over the next maybe few days here, you could see Bitcoin come up a little bit closer to 120,000, but then back down maybe to about 117,000, and then back up and down and up and down, and then finally breaking out further. So he's not proposing that there would be some super long consolidation period. In fact, increasingly, as I stated, these pullbacks, if you get them, they're shallow and they're short-lived, because we are getting into the final. That's what you should expect anyway, going into this final phase here. And so we did kind of bounce from that top range that he was talking about. So again, that was from this morning, and then this afternoon, this is 2:36 p.m. So this is just 3 hours ago, roughly, less than 3 hours ago. He updated this and he said, once again, at a make it or break it level here. If we lose this zone, be mentally prepared for a liquidity flush under $115,000. Remember, bullish higher time frame structure won't change even with such an event, so keep cool regardless. And I'm glad he said that. Keep cool, folks. This is the exciting. This is not a time for even an ounce of fear to enter you. Even if there's pullbacks, it does not make logical sense to believe that what is probable is that we enter a bear market and everything craters down from here. It is not logical to believe that that is what's probable. Well, and I say that while admitting I never know for sure what's going to happen. It's not about knowing for sure. It's about what is probable. It's not remotely probable that this thing craters down. What's highly probable is this extends way to the upside. And altcoins follow. XRP enters price. Well, it's I'm used to saying it will enter. It's in price discovery, and then melts faces. That we're still waiting for that part. But it's gonna melt faces. It's hard to imagine a world where XRP does not melt everyone's face, and then everyone just needs a new face. It's gonna be fantastic. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Mikey Bull Crypto market cap Bitcoin dominance chart. Look at that son of a bitch falling off. It's just like a cliff. Look at that. And I know the percentage isn't dramatically down, but it's notably down. It was at a recent high of close to 66% market dominance. It's now down to 60.84%. And that's visually, that's the type of drop that you would want and expect towards the end of a market cycle. This thing climbed for years. Bitcoin market dominance climbed for years. Now it's falling. Even as the price of Bitcoin is trending up, and it is, and it'll keep trending up until it finally hits its peak, which we're getting closer to. But the dominance falls as that happens. Historically, that is normal. And then you're seeing also, you're seeing altcoins pick up. And the blockchain backer in his most recent video, by the way, he noted, so Bitcoin dominance is going down. The price is mostly moving sideways in recent days. But what you've seen is the market cap for the asset class increase. That signals that new money has been flowing in, not to Bitcoin, but new money has been flowing into altcoins, resulting in an increase in dominance for altcoins, not for Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance goes down, not because its price is going down, but because new money is flowing into altcoins. So this isn't some sort of rotation. So you will see, ultimately, you're going to see a rotation. People will take profits from Bitcoin, throw it into XRP and other top coins. That's not what we're seeing. That's why this is exciting. So we're getting closer to the end, where the most fun happens, but we're not literally that far along. This is new money flowing in, folks. But you will see that rotation, and it's just going to make alts go that much more berserk, like by the time the cycle's over. And this happens every single market cycle. Don't be surprised that it's unfolding like this now. History does rhyme with itself. Humans, we are biological robots, and we tend to behave the same, roughly speaking, over and over again. Of course, on an individual level, you can learn new things, you can change your behaviors, you can get better, you can stop making stupid lemming retail speculator purchasing decisions and selling decisions. Yes, you can, but on the whole, we as humans, we tend to just behave over and over again. The young people coming into the markets, they have to learn the same hard lessons as investors that came before them. You know, like, so of course you're always going to see this type of stuff, even though there's enough information out there to educate people that it's a bad idea to behave like a freaking idiot and to have short-term mindset and then go chase up, panic, sell, all that stuff. But it's still going to happen. So he said here, cycle peak confirmed. And when he says cycle peak, he's talking about for Bitcoin dominance, not Bitcoin price, of course. But yeah, bear structure is confirmed. Yep. That's what Mikey Bull Crypto says. That's what it looks like. Absolutely. Here's a post from Greg Crypto. Talking about XRP. I think everything else in the rest of the video is 100% XRP. So he says, XRP weekly RSI, a crucial indicator. Ignore the below weekly RSI indicator at your own risk, but I am not. Don't overlook this indicator. Doing so could be risky. Why the weekly RSI matters. The weekly RSI, Relative Strength Index, for XRP is one of my key early warning signals for potential selling. He says, when I mention sell, I'm referring to dollar cost average, DCA strategy. However, this time, I plan to be more aggressive, as I believe we are in the final leg of this cycle. Keep a close watch on this indicator. Okay, he is right. This is an important metric to watch, including for Bitcoin. As we get closer to the top, I will be highlighting regularly. I'm going to be sharing updates on the Relative Strength Index, because once you're at 70, that is what's officially considered overbought territory. Now, it doesn't mean that imminently things will crash. You can persist, and this is exciting actually. You can persist into overbought territory for some time. It could be a number of weeks or more potentially. And so here you can see XRP when he shared this post just today, or I'm sorry, it was last night, 11:47 p.m. Central Time. When he shared this, so it was late last night. XRP was at 70 RSI. So most would consider that to be the first technical level of oversold territory. Now that's the default. If you look at historic price action, this might be getting too into the weeds, but if you look at a specific asset and you can find what the norms are, you can figure out for an individual asset that the overbought territory could be lower or higher than that. Same for the oversold territory, which typically starts at 30. But either way, like, we're basically there. So this can persist for some time. I'm not surprised to see that. I'm excited to see that's the case, because XRP has been ripping to the upside recently. So that shouldn't be a surprise. That's not bad or scary. You just need to be aware of it. But this can persist way, way, way higher. In fact, if you look at what happened at the end of 2024 into early 2025, look, XRP got up to, look, it was, I didn't even know what the number was. I just knew it was way high. I didn't remember it anyway. But it looks like it was just over 92. And this is a 100-point scale, mind you, right? So the highest is 100, realistically. And it's so 92? Like, that's high. It didn't mean that XRP was over, though. We consolidated for half a year. Now it's bursting up again. But this is the same behavior that you saw last cycle. Here you can see this first jump here. This would have been, it looks like, November? It was probably November of 2020 here. Our RSI dramatically jumped. It looks like it got, close to 85, 86, probably somewhere around there. Fell back down. You know what happened with the SEC nonsense. But then in April, price did jump back up. And you saw it get to only to 81. But of course, XRP was artificially being suppressed because of the government attack against it. And now that's over, so we don't have to worry about that. But then you can see the same thing in 2017. In 2017, XRP got up to, looks like it was 96 here in the first half of 2017. It moved sideways price-wise for half a year. And then it got up close to that, a little shy of that. So you had RSI jump, then sideways half a year, then another jump, and the same thing so it was 2 cycles ago. The same thing happened last cycle 4 years ago, and we're seeing that play out again now. History rhymes with itself. It just does. It just does. Here you go. It's a fun discussion as to why that is, but it just does, and we can all observe that. So when he says, hey, I believe we're in the final leg of the cycle, I know why he's saying that. Now, it doesn't mean that, again, we don't have to be fearful here. This is the exciting part coming up, but you do need to watch this. The higher we get, the riskier it is to continue to hold XRP if you want to take profits this cycle. Just be aware of that. Do whatever you will with that information. I'm just telling you, the longer you hold and the higher the RSI gets here, the riskier it is, because we don't know for sure where it's going to peak. I'd be willing to bet it's going to peak higher than last cycle because it's not being artificially suppressed, but I don't know that. The longer you hold it, the riskier it is. I will be scaling up. This is why. I'm going to be watching this, and this is just one more metric that I'm going to be following to get a feel for when this thing's going to peak. And I'm going to be scaling out at various price points. I'm not trying to sell the top because that's a fool's errand. You are not going to do that. And if you try and sell it all at once, what if you miss? What if exchanges go down because there's too much action going on they can't handle? Like, there's so many reasons it's bad to try and sell everything at one price point. And I'll talk more about this in a separate video. At some point soon, I need to make a video talking about exit strategies and pitfalls that you can fall into. I am very well aware of how things can go disastrously wrong. But, not to sound too negative, because, I'm excited here. This is a time to be excited. You don't want to mess this up, though. Here's a post from Crypto, one of the most popular chart guys out there, 1.7 million followers. XRP coiling up. He shared this yesterday. And I love to highlight this because this guy hates XRP, but he's being honest about it. He knows XRP is going to blast off again. And even in November when it rocketed, he was buying XRP. He was talking about it, being honest about where it was going to go. And I appreciate that part, even though he irrationally hates it, as some people do. You love to see this, though. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Dom. I've actually got 2 posts from him. This one's from last night. XRP order book update. Or I'm sorry, this is yesterday morning. Then I got a new one from today. So yesterday he said, bulls ate all the supply late last week, and we have been left with a pretty empty order book since. From here until $4 is still very clear as compared to the walls from last week. So my friends, the heavy clusters of people that wanted to sell, they had their sell orders, that's already been eaten up. So that was right around the range that we're in now, actually. There's really not much resistance, if any, really to note of above us. There just isn't. So the reason we're not going right now is it's just buyer exhaustion. You need the demand to pick back up. But see, the cool thing is in an environment like this, that's exactly what happens historically. There's so much money flowing in. Of course, XRP is going to get a certain percentage of the attention and money flowing in. You just need to let the buyers build their strength back up a bit. So the resistance isn't the problem. You just need more demand, and that's exactly what historically comes here. And so then he says, so this means aggressive buyers have an easy shot to push this to $4 range if they step up. Not much passive resistance shown. The overall flows have been very neutral over the last 2 days, which shows slight exhaustion from bulls, but not overly confident bear behavior. Exactly. Don't you just love to see that? And so then there's this update from just a little bit earlier today. He says, bulls trying to take advantage of those clear order books. As long as this buy pressure stays, there's not much stopping us until $4. Majority of that pressure coming from Upbit, Coinbase, and the Kraken. Now, of course, that was 7 hours ago, so we now know over the last 7 hours, XRP did come down a little bit as Bitcoin was coming down. It ain't gonna matter. Like, it's gonna go, folks. It's gonna go. It's gonna go. It's gonna go. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Zoom. XRP has had 4 consecutive daily closes above all-time high, and last night had its highest weekly close ever. That's right, folks. Not just 4 days above the all-time high, the highest weekly close ever. Strength, my friends. This is tremendous strength. Here's another one from Mr. Zoom. He says, $4 will be here soon. He says, yes, I do believe XRP goes higher than just $4. I'm just talking about the super short time frame. And this is what I keep seeing echoed, just this general concept, even if they're not saying exactly the same price point. This is the concept I keep seeing echoed from every chart analyst out there that's willing to opine on it. In the short term, the very, very short term, could go any day now. That's the type of level we're talking about, maybe a little higher. Here's 24 hours crypto. He's saying $4 XRP loading. Same sentiment here. Here is chart analyst XR Punky. And this is from this morning. XRP breaking out soon. $4 to $4.50 next. And again, he super short term. He's not saying that's where we peak. He's for the cycle, way higher for the cycle. In the short term, $4 to $4.50. Here's chart analyst Steph's Crypto. The next XRP price target, you can see highlighted here, $4.53 here specifically. It's not like they're all copying each other. They don't normally agree this much on simple things like this. When they do, though, when these chart analysts do agree, then what they think is likely to happen almost always does. The vast majority of the time. It's about probability. And yes, sometimes the improbable happens, but I ain't counting on it. Certainly not. I'm counting on the probable to occur here, which means in the short term, much higher. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Flash. He says XRP on track, and he's targeting here $5 in the short term, obviously. Here's Block Bull. He says next stop $5.40 for XRP, and again, that's a short-term target. Doesn't mean we're going to peak here. You seen a theme here yet, folks? Here's a post from Chart Analyst Ali Martinez. XRP targets $6 after breaking out of a triangle. Again, short-term target here. That's a short. That he posted that this morning. And then there's also this from chart analyst Osemka. He says perhaps XRP finishes it off sooner. I don't know, or it takes a longer time after this move to cool off and lets others run. So that's the question mark of where we're going to have to consolidate just a little bit. He says hard to connect everything, but the important thing to me is that Bitcoin and others is yet to do so. Right, we haven't had the final parabolic push. Right, and others, of course, is the top 125 coins by market cap, excluding the top 10. That's what he's referencing there. But he's saying here, we haven't had that with Bitcoin and others yet. And then somebody responded to him and said, but if I'm not mistaken, in previous runs, XRP and Bitcoin have topped reasonably close together. I know BCB has covered this a lot. And Osemka said, they did, which is why I think we've only seen the first impulse so far, and there's still lots in the tank left. Right. And so, as you see, all of them understand, like just about all of them agree anyway, not literally. Like I said, there are some that think that this could extend into later this year, early 2026. That's not a majority opinion, though. We're really approaching that now. There's a lot left in the tank, as he said here, in terms of price action, the exciting movement. Time-wise, though, if you just look from historic precedent, we really are approaching that end. And so if you look at how Bitcoin and others have been unfolding to this point, which is what he referenced here, that should lead you to feel additional confidence. We haven't seen the final stages there. It's just directionally, like, things are going as you'd want and hope them to if you want to see a final parabolic blow off top for this entire asset class. That is happening. Like, we're getting there. So just again, practice your happy dance, do it in the mirror so that when you finally break it out in front of people, you don't look like a dork. Just do a nice little happy dance. You don't want to do like an Elaine dance or anything like that. You want a responsible happy dance. But we are getting to the point. We're going to have to bust that out, and then you're going to have to buy a new face. But you'll be able to afford it. With all these XRP riches, you can afford to buy a brand new face and make yourself much more handsomer. You know what I'm saying, man? So it's coming, folks. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.